Hello and welcome again to Artisan Realty Agent Training. Tonight's exciting topic, or today's, well, it's tonight, exciting topic is mold, termites, and a little bit more. The goal of this training is to help you to become a real estate expert. These are the things that clients expect you to know about, so it's kind of good to learn this way rather than going walking through a house and selling it without recognizing mold and termites and all the other things that are possibly up there. Additional topics we're going to cover are financing, contracts, negotiations. That's a long one, believe it or not. Additional environmental issues, sales, risk management, time management, and home inspections, which you may have seen already. So mold, what is it? Mold is a very common, very normal process that occurs everywhere on Earth. It's the way that nature comes back and reclaims its own and breaks things down. Otherwise, old trees would last forever and dead bodies would be around for thousands of years. Mold is one of those things that, in addition to parasites and other things, will come in and break things down in the world so things go back to nature. It's not a bad thing. It's an unusual thing. However, when mold is in a home, which is what we sell. If mold is in a home, it can actually put out spores and create dangerous situations to people's breathing, small children, asthmatics, people who are um, immune disease, have immune diseases, or their immune system is deficient in any way, can react in a much worse way to mold than I'd say healthy people is probably a better way to say it. Um, just a little anecdotal story. I was at a house in Chester County about a year and a half ago. It was a bank-owned property. The buyers were very anxious to see it. They showed up with a one-year-old and a brand new baby here in their arms, and I had walked through the house already and recognized mold, all over the place from top to bottom. Walls were bulging out. It was just very bad situation. And then the father said, well, I want to go see it anyway. And he started to walk toward the house with the kids, and I had to physically jump in front of him and say, wait a second, let me explain, what you're doing here and what the effect on your children could be. It's almost like giving them an injection of something they never had before. And I convinced him to leave the kids behind. And if you really want to walk through the house, say you're an adult, go ahead and do it. But let's keep the kids out of it. So people have all kinds of reactions walking into houses with mold, including anaphylactic shock and issues like that. A reason why mold is a problem in 2014 and 15 right now, and over the last 7 or 8 years, even though it had existed for a great period of time before that, without really becoming anything more than a guy walks over with bleach and sprays it and knocks it out. The reason is because of all the bank-owned properties, because of the vacant properties that are out there, and the properties that were just closed up and locked up, and plumbing systems were leaking, and 2, 3, 4, 5 years of just existing that way created a lot of mold and a lot of serious issues for realtors. So let's take a look at what it's about. So mold, a very large group of microscopic fungi that live on plant or animal matter. Most are whatever that word is. Organisms are alive and produce spores that can be air, water, insect borne, a common trigger for allergies. So the key right there is they produce spores. They put spores out into the air. You breathe the spores in, it can affect your eyes, can affect your nasal passages, can get in your lungs. I had a mold infestation once from walking through a property in the Jersey Shore. And I went to the dentist, and the dentist immediately said, you have molds. It had actually got into the gums of my teeth and created a very painful situation. I think I lost about 10 or 15 pounds by the time that was done. People who are sensitive to molds exposure can cause symptoms such as nasal stuffiness, eye irritation, wheezing. People with serious allergies to molds may have more severe reactions. Severe reactions may recur among workers exposed to large amounts of mold. It can turn to fever, chronic illnesses, and infections in their lungs. Some historical ways to look at mold. If you remember, the Egyptians, right? The tombs were broken into, and they had the curse of the mummy's tomb. Remember that? Everybody who went into the mummy's tomb died or got very sick within the next 3 or 4 months. Guess what? That was the black mold that had been in there for thousands of years. And then first person walked in, pushed out all the spores into the air, breathed it in, and sure enough, there's a problem there. Another interesting thing about mold, I'm sorry, they also say the witches of the people who act like witches actually got exposed to molds and they started having crazy behavior. But another interesting thing about mold is one of the treatments, and I'm not getting into medical stuff here too much, but if you treat it like it's a cold or an infection, and you give antibiotics to someone, well, now you've given the molds the entire playground of your body, and it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. So if it's misdiagnosed, it can be a real problem. Uh, what causes mold to form? So a couple things. It's always present. There's mold in this room right now. I can probably swat it around. It's always present in the air, and it needs a little bit of moisture and a food source. So a lack of light, moisture, and a food source. So I'm just looking around me right here, my clothing, my skin, obviously, the drywall, the carpet is an excellent food source for molds. If this was dark and wet for a period of time, the mold that's in the air would land there and start growing colonies, and then they'd put out spores into the air, and sure enough, we'd have a mold problem exactly where I'm sitting right here. So it can be anywhere. It's just a question of having the right situation to occur. Here we go, some famous mold issues, the curse of the mummy tombs. Ed McMahon's house, this Ed McMahon, Johnny Carson's famous sidekick. Ed McMahon's house was actually taken over by mold, and it killed his dog. Mold kills cats, kills small animals. The molds are very dangerous. And then the witches of Salem, Massachusetts. Some of the experts believe that the molds in the seasonal farming communities there just were one of the things that contributed to the people acting a little bit goofy like witches, and therefore they were burned at the fire. Spotty mold, so your nose knows. So the Pennsylvania Association of Realtors attorney says that a realtor's obligation is not only to ask a seller if they've ever had mold, to point out mold if they see it with the buyer, but if they have that smell, and he described it uniquely as that old sneaker smelly smell that everyone knows, what that damp smell is. It's hard to describe it. If you smell that when you're going through a house, you should bring it to the buyer or seller's attention. That's the level of attention that realtors need to pay when they approach mold as an issue in real estate. By the way, there's about 45,000 mold litigation cases in Pennsylvania alone. Insurance companies are running from it so fast. Home inspectors will say, we don't cover mold, we don't do mold, we farm it out. Smart realtors, if they have a mold issue in their house or they think there might be, to just close it like crazy. It makes a lot more sense to get a mold situation treated, get some documentation, put that liability on a third party who's an expert in that world, rather than trying to sell a house and say that it has mold. First off, you don't know how people are going to react physically and mentally when they walk into a house that has mold. They may run for cover, but you're definitely much better off getting it treated professionally. And the final treatment is to get an air sample to prove that the mold spores in the house are less than they are outside, and certainly it's a safer place. Might be hidden, might be behind walls. I saw a mold situation where it actually came up and ate the back part of pictures. Could be behind walls with electric, could be behind plumbing walls, could be behind drywall. Here's some examples of it right here. Again, it needs humidity or water, a surface to grow on, low light or darkness. So having light on, aerating a property, just having some air flowing around is a very good way to ensure that the mold is taken care of, to at least started to taken care of. Mistakes in dealing with mold. Not reducing the presence of mold to the cost of mold removal. Let me explain that now. Let's just say you sell a house, you have a home inspection, the home inspector says, hey, you've got a mold problem here. So what you're going to do is the young couple holding the kids in their hands are going to go to the sellers in writing and say, hey, will you take care of this mold problem? And what they're really saying is, will you please make sure that my children and me are not going to be put into a situation that's going to be hazardous to their health? And then the sellers come back and say, no, we're not going to take care of the mold problem. So what the buyer hears is, we don't care about your health, we don't care about your children, buy the house anyway. And of course, that's the end of negotiations. Real smart real estate agents will take the mold situation and break it down into cost to fix the mold. For example, the smart buyer's agent, before they even bring it up with their buyer, goes out and gets an estimate for mold removal. It's $842. And then you're saying to the seller, hey, will you take care of this $842 bill? And the seller might say, geez, I really don't want to. Well, maybe I'll do half. And then you go back to the buyer and say, hey, will you take care of this $400 bill? The seller's going to pay $400. You can probably sense just in the way I'm talking about it that I've taken the panic, I've taken the personal insult, I've taken the issues about safety within the family out of that. So break it down to money, Don't ever say the word mold again in your negotiations. Break it down to money, and then you're going to have much more success negotiating away. If you find that the buyers are running away from a house because of mold, you probably didn't break it down to money. You probably have a seller who doesn't want to fix the mold, a buyer who doesn't want to move into a moldy house, who would want to. But if you break it down to money, you'll do a lot better if you're a professional negotiator about it. Air test makes matters worse because, boy, we have to have an air test to make sure the mold is gone. Right off the bat, everybody's going like, oh my God, where is it? I can't see it. I can't feel it. It falls into like the radon category, which we'll talk about at a different time, where people just get scared. They can't see it. They can't touch it. It just becomes a crazy issue. So you basically want to have the professionals go in there, remove the mold, cut it away, and basically the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, says if there's mold on a piece of the house that's any bigger than this, about 1 square foot, you should move it toward professional remediation. And of course, when you remediate it, you want to make sure that you control the water source, control the food source, and control the light to make it work a little bit better. Take immediate action, order professional service to remove the mold and change the conditions that allow the mold to grow. Once you know the costs, begin to negotiate. If you do it that way, just from my experience, and this is hundreds and hundreds of cases, if you break it down into money and then put it into the mix of things that you're negotiating, the whole stigma of mold goes away and you'll be able to successfully negotiate it. The problem with mold in real estate transactions is we try to pass this hot potato from seller to buyer and buyer to seller. The answer is fix it, pay for it, and move on. Don't measure it, don't test it, don't point fingers, just fix it. And then the sale will go through. So when this comes up with the buyer, you immediately say, we're going to get this fixed, don't worry. When this comes up with the seller, you're going to say, you have to get this fixed now. No messing around. There's too much emotional baggage on all sides of it. And of course, when the buyers go, just the 400-pound gorilla here is when the buyer goes to get homeowner's insurance. If there's mold present in the house, the homeowner's insurance isn't going to cover it. The appraiser is going to pick it up. It's going to be a huge landmine further down in the transaction. So you might as well take care of it right up front or just move on to another house. Don't goof around with it. Let's see. Review seller's disclosures for mold and past water penetrations. Keep an eye out and a nose out for it when showing houses. Always attend all the inspections. Get an estimate for treating before negotiating. Keep the buyers and sellers' temperatures down. And when I say talk about attending all inspections, there was a sale in Newtown Square I had a couple of years ago where the home inspector just makes notations into his dictaphone, and the person who typed up his reports. So he was in the bathroom. He said mold in the bathroom, slight mold. And then the person typing up the report put mold situation in the bathroom, CR addendum regarding mold, and that was a big scary addendum. And what it was, in fact, was a tiny little piece of normal bathroom mold on a tile wall. And I went over and rubbed it right off and took care of the mold in front of the buyer, and he was like, okay. You can see how easily this can get out of hand if you're not there to be at the inspection, and your buyers, in that case, the buyer wasn't there at the inspection. He just read the report and then started running for the doors when he read it there. So what eats wood? We've got termites. You got carpenter bees right there in the middle. You've got my dog eats wood. You've got carpenter ants in the bottom left there. You have wood-boring beetles, and then the bottom right we have beavers. All these different things will eat wood. We're only concerned about a couple of those, obviously not all of them. But here's a quick primer on termite issues. What kind of damage will they do? There's a famous story of a house in Drexel Hill in the 1200 blocks of Drexel Avenue near Township Line where the grand piano went right through the floor. I've seen houses that had to be taken down, literally destroyed because the termites had gotten too far. I've seen $10, $15, $20, $30,000 in houses because they eat up the side. I was just down in Delaware, the house right next to a creek, which is always, the termites love damp ground. We couldn't find the termites unless we were on the 3rd floor. They took off a light switch cover on the 3rd floor, and sure enough, there were live termites in the middle of the winter. So if you find them on the 3rd floor, guess what? They're throughout the entire house because termites have to live in the ground and go back to the ground once every day to get moisture, and then go back and eat wood and go back and forth. So they're always going to start from the ground and work their way into a house. If you find it 3 or 4 feet into a house, they've been there for 3 or 4 years. Usually travel a foot per year, and it's much smarter to catch them early before it gets a little bit farther away. There's no termite damage. The normal termite damage can easily be fixed. Sellers really have to take care of it. Buyers are going to be suspicious, but they need to know that it's going to be completely fixed, and a structural carpenter, a structural engineer, somebody who knows something about how to rebuild a house should be doing this work, not a handyman. Who should pay for the damage? Historically, the sellers, this is the way we used to do it. The sellers would pay to make a house free of infestation and damage. So historically in the past, the sellers would deliver a termite report to the buyer at settlement saying the property is free and clear. Termites are notorious, however, for coming back again. They come back in the spring. The first sunny day, the termites start flying around because they're living in the ground. And guess what? The sellers got sued. And who delivered that piece of paper to the buyers? The seller's agent. So the seller's agent got sued. Everybody got sued. And somebody got really smart and said, hey, let's keep the seller out of this. Let's have the buyer go out and hire their own termite company and give a report back to the buyer's agent. And guess what happened? When the termites showed up, the seller didn't get sued and the seller's agent didn't get sued. And that's the way we do it now. So it's a beautiful thing right now. Right now, new contracts and bank-owned properties and short sales leave the buyers on the hook for these costs. They're saying, we're selling this property as is, take it or leave it. And unless you have a real, well, you have to, not all termite damage and termite infestation is visible. Someone could buy a house, take down a wall, and then find the termites, and there's no real protection for that when people buy an REO or a bank-owned property. It's good to have a good termite company. There are termite companies that are very interested in finding termites. They really work hard to find it because if they find the termites, they can sell the treatment and they make more money on the treatment than they do in actually with the inspection. So they're a good termite company is very interested in finding termite damage. There used to be a thing called a TAD dog, and they're still out there, TAD. They're little beagles who are trained to sniff out, basically smell termites. They run around the perimeter and point when they find the termites, and that's a pretty cool way to discover them as well. So conventional and FHA lenders are going to require that a property with wood-destroying insects be chemically treated, and they want proof at settlement. They want to make sure that this is not going to be a problem later on down the road. That's why they always want to see the termite report. And that's why I want the buyer and seller to sign the termite report, because they want everybody to acknowledge they've seen this, and they're all responsible for the language and the information that's on that report. Pretty commonplace in real estate settlements. Those reports are going to say this: no visible evidence of wood-destroying insects. That's a beautiful thing. That means you're good to go, you're clear. And of course the box is checked, there's no damage there, so that's the clean termite report. If you see something different, which is this, visible evidence of wood-destroying insects was observed, that doesn't mean that there's termites we're seeing. That means that something ate something in that house, right? And then down below it says, is there any damage that they can see? No, but they saw maybe one termite tunnel or old dead termites or termite wings in the spider webs, or maybe a couple dead carpenter ants, something like that. So this is another kind of a gray area here where the termite company is going to want you to pay for the treatment. Hey, we're not going to say that this house is guaranteed unless you treat the property and give us a lot of money for that. And that's something you have to negotiate with your termite company. Sometimes you can negotiate, instead of treating the entire perimeter of the house, which is very expensive, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, maybe they'll agree to, maybe without a warranty, but they'll agree to treat 5 or 6 feet right around where the suspect place was, and then you can save a lot of money if that's the case. It's just another option to consider. If there's no live infestation, that may mean they're hiding behind the walls. You never know. The exterminator may not guarantee the property without chemically treating it, just so he's sure, because he'll have to pay the bill later on down the road. Buyers may want to guarantee, since there is evidence of something in the past, but we can't tell if it's active or dead. And then you, as a real estate agent, we want to proceed to settlement only if the buyer is satisfied the termite company is comfortable with passing the property. And of course, we don't want to get involved in guaranteeing anything. If we're the buyer's agent, we let them find their termite company. The termite company reports to them. We stay out of it. Just explain the situation. Let them make a good decision. That's the best way to do it. Sometimes if you have a termite company with 2 different opinions, my advice is just treat the property as if it has termites. It's a lot safer for liability for the buyers of the property, and it's just not a lot of money to really get overly involved in. It's not a good place to save money. Termites are everywhere. If they're not, they're going to be. If they're alive, they'll see them. They'll show them to you. Visible evidence of wood-destroying insects was observed. That's a clear, you got to treat it, no question. And then we get down to this damage thing at the bottom here. So if there was damage in a property, a mortgage company is going to require to have a written letter from a carpenter saying that he examined where the damage was and it's still structurally sound. You can move forward. or he examined where the damage was. It's not structurally sound, and he replaced it with now structural members, and now it's structurally sound. But you'll find with lenders that if there's damage noted or possible damage noted on the termite report, you've got to follow up with a carpenter letter. Keep the engineers out of it. They just get a little too overly involved as engineers. A good carpenter who does this kind of work, Modern Termite has a good carpentry division, for example, will do a great job, and the house will be in good shape. Most lenders require proof that the property was chemically treated before settlement. How do they treat a termite? Well, they take it out to Dairy Queen, maybe Friendly's, a little joke in there. See if you're awake. And a lot of times there's a graph attached here. So if there is damage, there's going to be a graph of the house with the perimeter, and then the X's represent where the termite damage is located. So you could give that graph to the carpenter. He could walk in and see exactly where it is, and that's a good thing. Nowadays, a lot of home inspectors are doubling up as termite inspection. They'll do a termite inspection for 10 minutes while they're doing their home inspection. I'm nervous about that because I've met really, really good termite inspectors who've done this for a long time. They know where to look. For example, they walk right into a Westbrook Park, Warner Rest Row house, like the same kind of house in Overbrook Park and Society Hill, and they're going to walk right under the front stairwell where the steps were poured and the foundation wood was left there, which was the frame out for the front steps, and that's where the termites enter the house, and they're going to start looking from there. In other words, they know exactly where the entry points are, and they know exactly where to look. And they look in the spider webs, they take entomology courses. I'd like to leave it to the experts, especially in an area like Springfield, Delaware County, Drexel Hill, areas that are notorious for being near the water, down by the Delaware River and the Schuylkill up in Pottstown. That's a place where actually anything near woods too, so with a lot of fallen trees. That's where I really want to get a real local termite company who knows what they're doing to look at the property. Is it structural? We reviewed this. If it's structural, we've got to get it fixed. So our job is simple. Read the report, give good advice to your buyer and your sellers, consult with your real estate broker if you have any questions about the termites. You only have a certain amount of time to diagnose and correct the problem. The underwriters want to see this information before they approve the loan. So it may hold everything up if you're not careful. And at the last minute, an underwriter may have an issue and slow the whole process down. If you're using the kind of rinky-dink termite companies and carpenters, be careful, because an underwriter, especially in the last 4 or 5 years, is going to look that carpenter and a termite company up on the internet, and then they're going to verify that they're a licensed termite company and they pulled permits. They're going to check with the township to see that they pulled permits to do the work. So they're going to kind of overly watch everything that's going on here. So don't think you can take any shortcuts. Certainly don't let the seller do the work himself, and don't let the buyer do the work themselves. I'll leave that alone. We're going to jump ahead here. All the stuff we just talked about. One of the gray areas with termites, prior treatment. So the treatment that they used to do in the 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s was incredibly bad stuff. I mean, this stuff went in, it would kill all the termites, would kill all the worms, it may kill half the people living there too. They were carcinogens. You can identify that this treatment was done because if you look in the joist near the corners, you'll find drill marks on every joist. And what they were doing is they pumping this stuff, I think it's called chloridane, into the wood and stopping everything from coming into the house and creating a toxic situation for the owners of the property. Then they got chemicals which were a lot less strong for good reasons, and they would pump that into the ground around the perimeter, or sometimes on the inside, creating a barrier, whichever makes sense. And those chemicals were kind of watered down, and they might last for 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. So we have this gray area. Sure, it's obvious that there was some termite activity. It's obvious that it was treated 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago. Do you need another treatment? I don't know. And then recently we moved on to this kind of an unusual situation where they actually bury these things, kind of like tennis ball cans around the perimeter of the house. They put little pieces of wood in it with holes in it, and somebody goes around, it sounds silly, but they go and they lift the top off and look and see if any termites are eating the wood. And that's the way that they keep an eye on the property. They figure they're eating the wood out of the tennis ball cans. It's a little bit safer because you're not putting chemicals around the living areas where the people are. That's kind of the idea. And we talked about home inspectors may not be the best people. Beware of the conflict of interest. A lot of termite companies, they really try hard to find termites even when termites aren't there. That's an issue because they want to sell the chemical treatment. And then the opposite side of it. So large companies, they have the house guaranteed. They have a guarantee program on the property, so if termites show up, they have to pay for it. There's a temptation for them to just pass the house down, kick the can down the road, and not spot the obvious termite damage, just so they don't have to, you know, get cash to pay for the termite treatment. So be careful of that too. I've seen all of those things happen in the termite world in my career. If you have on-site water on the property, the termite treatment is done in a completely different way, because think about it, you're putting chemicals into the ground, and then the groundwater goes into the well, and then the well comes back into the house, and people are drinking these chemicals. Not really a good situation. So what they do is they actually dig up all around the house where the ground is going to be treated, and they take it to a third site, and they chemically treat it, and then they bring it all back, and they put a barrier down there, and they put the dirt back around the house. And that's the best that they have right now to protect the owners. But if there's a well, if I'm involved, I'm going to take great concern and take time to educate the buyers about what's going on here, just so they don't create a toxic situation in their house. Inaccessible areas. So the termite guys are going to say, and the carpenter ant people, same thing, are going to say, I can't guarantee that there's no termites behind that, that paneling or that drop ceiling, or these areas where they can't see it. So even when they have a termite inspection, they can't tell you that they can't see behind walls, and that sort of makes sense if you think about it. They can't see inside of blocks as well. Sometimes the buyer has to insist and say, look, if I'm going to buy this house, I want that drop ceiling taken down at least in 10 places so my termite guy can look at it, or I want to be able to peek behind that wall. I want someone to lift up the first layer of siding all around the property so I can look at the low levels, at least to make sure the termites out there. And that's where negotiation comes into play, especially in these tricky termite areas. Let's see. So order quick, just a little summary here. Order quick, don't let the time pass, get that termite inspection done right away. It's only $85 for an inspection. Be at the inspection yourself if you can. Make sure to document the chemical treatments and structure repairs, get them to the lender's underwriter so you know if you're okay. Review all the reports, especially the wood destroying insect report, to discover your action items. If you have any confusion, run it by your lender or your broker, just to make sure you're keeping up with the process as it goes along. You don't find yourself 2 or 3 days before settlement looking to get another termite guy out there and treatment done, or repairs in a rush. That would cause lots of problems for everybody. So that's my termite, wood destroying, insect and mold training for you. It's a lot of talking real quick, but hopefully we've raised some red flags when you're out there showing properties. You're going to learn a lot about these topics when you have this opportunity. Here's kind of the way it works. A lot of realtors, what's going on at your listing over there, John? Well, John says, well, they're doing a mold test today. What's going on at your listing, Mary? Oh, they're doing a termite inspection today. If I'm the broker and I say, John, get out of your seat and get over there and watch it. Learn how this works. Mary, get over there and watch it. Get there. Go there with the termite and mold professionals. Ask them lots of questions. Watch how it works. This makes you a valuable real estate agent, and that's what we're bringing, value to the table. And it'll be good that you know this stuff for your clients and for the company's clients, so we can give them good advice so they can make good decisions with the information that we put in front of them. So anytime you get a chance to go on these inspections, do it. Especially interesting are septic inspections, cesspool inspections, all these different kinds of specialties that are out there. I highly recommend it. Okay, that's it for Artisan Realty training for the moment. Have a good day.